I love indie games. In fact, I actually prefer them over regular games. And yes, sometimes there are some really bad ones like Five Nights at Freddy's, but those that are good are really good and often above the AAA titles from big companies. And Undertale is one of those masterpieces, and today I'm here to tell you why it's the best game to come out this year. Alright, so the story in Undertale is a very important part of the experience. So I won't say much about it, just sum it up very briefly. In fact, I will only tell you what the intro is saying, so don't expect any spoilers here. The intro tells about how once upon a time, two races ruled over the earth, humans and monsters. But one day, a war between the two started, and in the end, the human race won over the monsters and sealed them underground with a powerful barrier. We then skip to the year 2010X, when a human kid approaches a mountain cave and trips, resulting in him falling underground. Well, and that's as much as I'm gonna tell you. What I can tell you is that the story will take you through a journey of emotions with a perfect balance of humor and sorrow. It's the mix that I loved so much in Mother 3, my favorite game of all time. The characters are very lovable and memorable too, and that extends to more than just major characters, as many minor ones are just as memorable. This is truly a masterpiece of writing. It's a great story with great characters and it's full of emotions, and I just love everything and everyone in this game. And the longer into the game, the more you grow attached to them. It's very rare for a game to build such a bond between the player and the game's world to the point where you genuinely care about its inhabitants and carefully think through every move you make. The experience with this game may vary from person to person depending on their personality, but overall I think you will be in for a great experience nonetheless. But just talking about it, especially without spoiling anything, is kinda hard. So this is all I can tell without revealing anything of importance. I can say one more thing though. Towards the game literally made me cry. It's the first game to do it since Mother 3, except in the end, Undertale affected me even more, in fact, much more. Needless to say, it's a love letter to old RPG fans in many ways, but it can also be played by people who usually don't like the RPG formula. Story gets undoubtedly 15 out of 15 points. Undertale goes for that 8/16-bit feel, mostly reminding of Earthbound style. It's not the best looking game in this style, but it has a lot of pretty places and really nice character sprites. The battle sprites are all in black and white, and they are all very nicely animated. The character mugshots in the dialog boxes add more personality to the already great characters with many expressions and animations instead of just static images like a lot of RPGs the 16-bit era did. I love the attention to detail as well, like in how the character called Papyrus speaks in the Papyrus font, etc. It's really great stuff. The graphics get 9 out of 10 points. I know I already mentioned the Mother series in this review like twice, but whatever. The music in Mother 3 was wonderful and helped to further build up the already masterfully crafted world. I'm happy to announce that Undertale is on a similar level. The soundtrack was made by the same guy who created the game itself, and he did a wonderful job. There's quite a lot of music with over 100 tracks, and every track is wonderful and also quite varied, starting from traditional 8-bitish chiptune-ish tunes to beautiful atmospheric compositions. And just how Mother 3's love theme gets me teary-eyed every time, so do some tracks in this game. Sound effect wise, it's mostly simple, but just enough for a game of this kind. The soundtrack is available as a DLC on Steam, and I highly recommend getting it along with the game. It's really worth it and most likely one of the 2 best soundtracks of 2015. Audio gets 10 out of 10. At first glance, this is your typical JRPG inspired game, and yeah, at its core, that's what it is. However, there are some quite notable differences that not only stand out, but also make the game as good as it is. I'm talking about the combat system. It's a more active turn-based system, but when you hear of that you might think that it's like Paper Mario or South Park The Stick of Truth. But no, this is completely different. Your opponents aren't just simply hitting, they are shooting all kinds of bullets and similar objects at you, and you need to avoid them by moving your soul, that is represented by a heart, inside a box. That limits your movement. This adds an element of action into turn-based RPG formula, and adds that bullet hell shooter-like element to the game. The other big thing about the combat system, that is kinda like the most important thing in this game, is that you don't have to harm anyone and get out of battles in a peaceful manner instead. You don't have to do it, of course, it's all up to you, you might as well just defeat everyone, just like in any other RPG, right? Regular fighting is time-based, more reminiscent of the Paper Mario formula. Aside from that, the game is a pretty standard old-school inspired RPG with a few quite smart puzzles and some mini-games. What the game does well is always giving you an easy version of the puzzle to explain it before giving you a much harder version that requires far more thought. The game also features quite a lot of important decision making and conversations, which can affect how the game's story will progress. The game takes place in the underground, where the monsters are trapped behind the barrier, forcing them to live in a rather small area. However, the world is still varied with many differently themed areas that create a pretty big world to explore, and there's quite a lot of things to interact with, many of which will reveal more of the game's backstory or are just there for comedic purposes. And when you put all the pieces of the game together, you get a unique experience full of unique gameplay elements and a very deep story. And the fact that all this was achieved in Game Maker Studio is not only impressive, but gives me determination to keep on with my own Game Maker Studio projects. The gameplay gets 48 out of 50 points. The official site for the game estimates the playtime to about 6 hours. However, that's about how much it will take to complete the game if you just want to breeze through it without exploring and interacting too much with the characters. In fact, it took me over 14 hours to fully complete the game, and that's not even getting all endings, just 2 of them. And besides, the length of the game is not always what's counting. Take SteamWorld Dig for example. You can beat the game in about 2 to 4 hours, but if it was much longer, it wouldn't be as fun anymore. And it's rather similar here, except here the fact it's not super long is because you are supposed to remember everything about it throughout the whole journey, and it makes it more memorable. Besides, unlike most old-school inspired RPGs, the random encounter rate is rather low, and in some areas, random encounters disappear altogether after clearing the area. But why do I keep talking about it? The game was long enough for me and I'd gladly play it again. There are also multiple endings, so the game has a lot of replayability. Oh, and the game is an indie game for $10. It's honestly not asking much for this much quality. Content and longevity get 24 out of 25 points. I think you all know the answer to this one. Well, to be honest, let's change the name of the category for this review. Yeah, while I definitely had a lot of fun playing this, with countless laughs and nice gaming moments, this game was more than just about fun. It was also an emotional trip unlike any other, even stronger than Mother 3. The game made me question my every decision and sometimes even my own morals. It leads you through joy, sadness and determination. No pun intended. It's written in a way that really makes you build a relationship with the characters, and as I mentioned before, start to care about them. As for the sorrowful parts, well, you need to find that out by yourself, so don't try to spoil yourself. And if you don't like / don't care for emotional parts in the game, there is always the fun gameplay and the funny moments, and I guess that the attitude towards it and one's personality is what matters the most in how much you will enjoy the game. For me, for example, the immersion and the themes that drove me to both laughter and quite literally crying are what makes this game the best this year, and my favorite ever alongside with Mother 3. It just got me really thoughtful all the way through. But I'm actually gonna have a separate video about my reflections and thoughts about the themes of the game, but that video will be only for people who played and completed the game. I will put a link to it at the end of the video, as soon as the video will be complete, of course, and it will contain major spoilers, so it's only for those who completed the game. Understand? Anyways, experience gets 25 out of 25 points. Now let's sum this all up. Story 15 out of 15. Graphics 9 out of 10. Audio 10 out of 10. Gameplay 48 out of 50. Content 24 out of 25. Experience 25 out of 25. Total score 131 out of 135, which gives us a final score of 9.7 out of 10. No, actually, the final score is 10 out of 10. Yeah, so what more can I say? I think I said everything in this review. This is definitely my favorite game of all time alongside Mother 3. So yeah, this game also gets my highest possible reward of the pure platinum seal of approval, which I only give to the games that really made it into top 10 of my best games of all time. And Mr. Toby Fox, as well as everyone involved in making of this game, thank you for this masterpiece, and I really hope you will make some other good games.